just to say thank you very much for joining me today, Julie. I know that you are a very, very busy woman. And for those of you that haven't heard of or haven't met Julie before, if you've practiced yoga in Glasgow, it's more than likely you've practiced with somebody that Julie's taught yoga to. Isn't that right?
Yes, probably likely. Very, very happy to say.
Yeah. So when did you start yoga yourself?
I actually started in the mid-90s, having had a career in fitness and being a fitness teacher for 20 years before that. And I got a bit aware of my pelvic floor not being quite as buoyant as it had been previously before having two children, one at 37, one at 40. And I thought, right, now I need to find something that's a bit more aligned with somebody who's getting a little bit older and needs to do something a bit more mindful.
Okay.
So I went to look for a yoga class and found it very difficult to find one, was my first thing. So I found a certain practice called Drew Yoga, actually, and that was a bit slow for me. And I was still wearing the lycra up the bum cheese thing, cheese cutter, and the matching headgear and earrings, and it wasn't quite doing it for me. I thought, it's not quite physical enough.
Right, okay.
And then I found the lovely Jerry Kelty, who taught me a younger combination with Ashtanga. And I thought, this is more like it. This is active and moving. And that was me really on a journey from that point. So that was mid-90s, late 90s.
Okay. So, it's very different from nowadays, because if you look for a yoga class nowadays, there's such a massive range of them. But what I've always found confusing is all the different types. Like not wanting to go to one in case I'm not at that level, or just not even having an understanding of what Ashtanga is, what Vinyasa is. Could you give us a bit of an insight into the different forms of yoga, please?
I think the first thing I'll say about this is, even in its title, doesn't really tell you what the class is going to be like.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you see a title and the description is one that you think, maybe not, you might see this classes for fitness professionals who like to do head balances, and you might be thinking you want a gentle, relaxing class. You might go, I'll not try that. But the class that's taught to you is hugely about how the teacher puts over her message, her experience, her age, her clientele. And the great thing about this baby boomer generation now, and Gen X being a huge population, is under normal circumstances, the classes are now a little bit more aligned with being kinder to people rather than trying to, put you into a pulp of dust and sweat at the end of it.
Yeah.
So, the best way probably is to go.
Just go and try it. Try it out first, okay?
And then I'll say to people on the way in, are you enjoying the class? Who's, and then you'll get people telling you exactly what's going to happen in there. Or if it's in a club or studio, asking people on the way out, what was that about? Is it difficult? How long have you been coming? So other people telling you how their experience is always a good.
Okay, yeah, because I think, I said to you earlier on, I do hot yoga, but for the first 18 months probably of me going to the hot yoga studio, I only did the Pilates side of things because I was too scared and too intimidated to go and do the Bikram, because like you said, I thought I'm going to end up like in just a mess at the end of the class.
I know it's one of the things that I'm really, really keen on as a teacher of teachers is that the experience should not be scary. People should not be intimidated by it. And I think that, yoga is in its name intimidating to start with. And I think that really, it is more not like that now. It's not so cliquey and it's not so narrow focused into being able to cut a shape like a pretzel while you're still looking glamorous, dressed in tight-fitting clothing. It's so gone away from that.
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I'm very relieved to
So
say.
it's a lot more accessible than it's ever been, possibly.
It absolutely is. And the lovely thing for me is when we run teacher trainings, and we run them all over the country. We did run them in Europe, but COVID kind of, a combination of COVID and Brexit kind of put an end to that. But
Yeah.
we run teacher trainings everywhere, and I go and teach on all of them, as well as concentrate on my own in Glasgow. But the whole mix of people is so wide. It's so
Gosh.
amazing.
Yeah.
And now look at a room of people. And was teaching at one of our lovely teachers, Carla and Prana Yoga in Hamilton, on Sunday or Saturday. And she's got a lovely guy who's in his late 60s, and a load of different sizes and shapes, and of people who come from all different walks of life, from somebody quite young to somebody middle-aged, all different people. And it's lovely to see.
Amazing. Yeah, no, that's good. And that's encouraging, because you don't want to go along to a class and you feel like you're the only one. You know, everybody else is tiny and bendy, and you're there struggling on your own. I think that's the dread, isn't it? So what led you from a student, a yoga student, to yoga teacher? What made you want to teach it?
Well, actually, I was a teacher before. So that was the big turning point for me. Was I was a fitness teacher.
Anyway, right,
And
okay.
I knew I wanted to evolve into yoga, and I wanted to find a teacher training. And I was met with a lot of closed doors in Scotland in the mid-90s, of the attitude that you need to be doing yoga for 4 or 5 years before you take on even thinking about becoming a teacher.
Mhm.
And by nature of the person I am, that wasn't doing it for me at all. And I thought there must be a different way in here.
Yeah, different route.
So when I, met Jerry Kelty and started to go to his class, and realised, as far as teacher trainings go, I wasn't going to get it in Scotland, I then went to train myself in America
Gosh.
over a period of time with all sorts of fantastic teachers, and mostly with Shivaria as an American yoga teacher. And I did it with the intention of making yoga teaching accessible to people who wanted to teach it.
Fantastic.
Because I was a fitness teacher, and I was really quite annoyed that I couldn't hone my teaching abilities into something that was more in line with people who are maybe getting a bit older, that want to do something a little bit more mindful.
Mm.
And so I started off on my journey to learn yoga, to teach yoga to others. That was my thing.
And how would you mentioned that then, that's what I always describe yoga as, mindful movement. How would you explain that to people, the difference between what you taught before, just a normal exercise class? How does that differentiate to mindful movement of yoga?
I think very much it's the components that you put into a yoga pose, and it starts with, breathing, uniting yoga and breath, the meaning of yoga. But, your foundation, what you do from that foundation of your feet. If you're doing a standing pose, it might be your hands if you're doing a handstand, but then how you arrange your body, and then where you put your hips, and then where you put the middle bit, and then when you put your arms, and then where your head goes, your drishti, your focus point, and then you've got to breathe. And I think the chance of you being able to think about the fact that you didn't put on the dishwasher before you left has been taken out of the equation. And I think that the complexity of the movement and the breath and the teaching and the internal feeling of how to make that happen quashes any ability to be able to think.
Yes. And that's funny. That's how I describe, well, that's the reason I say I love doing yoga, because my mind tends to be overactive. And when you're in yoga, as you say, you've got so many things to think about, plus somebody giving you instructions as well as all the different positions, you're breathing. Yeah, you simply don't have time to think about anything else at all, do you?
No, you don't.
So you are becoming mindful.
And then I think the lovely thing ultimately is it makes you very aware of your inner self as well.
True.
You go into a yoga class, and this might sound a bit kind of woo-woo, but you do a few practices, and you think, oh, hang on a minute, this is definitely doing something, and you become aware of, I actually feel calmer, I feel more centered somehow. How's that happening? And then you're thinking about how you feel internally, where in the years of aerobics, when you're faced with a mirror some really great music and you were doing your grapevine to the right and grapevine to
Yep,
the left,
yep.
you were more in the vibe of being in a nightclub and
That's right, yeah.
enjoying it rather than going, how do I feel inside? What is this doing for me? So I think it's lovely that it internalizes the feelings, which the first class, if you haven't been going for very long, you might be listening to this and going, what's she talking about? But eventually the penny does drop and you think, actually, I'm feeling this in the inside. I'm really having to think this through and put my mind into how my body's feeling.
Yeah, yeah. And I love the way that you call it a practice rather than, because it's more than just exercise, isn't it?
Do you know, it's funny, I was thinking about that on the way in this morning, about how it's a practice and that in its meaning, the word is like something you never get good enough to stop practicing. But weirdly, the practice becomes the journey and the
Sure.
journey changes. So you get older and the practice has to change to a different practice. And it just would mean, I suppose, you never reach perfection, but the perfection is the journey.
Okay. Okay.
Do you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
wherever you are, we all were beginners at one stage, and the things I could do then compared to what I can do now, not that it's about that at all, but my practice has changed hugely from when I started to now.
Which gives you a sense of achievement, surely, doesn't it? And a willing to learn more.
It's a sense of acknowledgement, I think, that, it's okay. Wherever I am today, when I practice, is exactly where my body and my mind wants me to be, and whether it's, 10 minutes and you think, right, maybe that's enough today, or whether it's longer than that, it's just exactly what you needed. And
Yeah. And how do you think it impacts the rest of your life?
I think it has a huge effect, but you don't realize it's doing it. It definitely, like I've said, it internalizes, so you become more aware.
Sure.
So you become more aware of maybe an impending, I'm not feeling quite right. What's wrong here? Where before you weren't as sensitive to that.
Yeah.
It starts to make you calmer, where you've got this kind of inner calmness. And I think this is why you are really drawn to it as well, isn't it?
Still trying to find the I feel like I'm getting there. There's definite progress.
Yeah. But it's that end, that moment at the end of a class or the moment at the end of the practice where you can think, actually, how different do I feel now to how I felt at the beginning? And then that acknowledgement of mentally, physically, emotionally, in every way you're in a different place.
Yeah.
Whether that was your intention or not, you do feel different.
Yeah.
So it gives you an inner awareness, a kind of calmness, a flexibility.
Yeah, sure.
In attitude in life. And it's the people that aren't flexible who say, oh, I can't do yoga, or there are people that should be doing it.
Yes.
And the flexible ones, they should be doing something that's probably a bit more aligned with strengthening and bringing in, parties and more consolidation. But anyway.
Yeah, when you talk there about, the different things in your own life, for me, at the very end of the class, in Shavasana, and you're just lying there and they'll say, do nothing. That's the hardest thing for me. So that's where I have to do the most practice, to do nothing, even just to lie, which is bizarre, to lie with my hands by my side and do nothing for a minute or two. I find that the most difficult.
I think that's why Yoga Nidra is so popular. You've ever tried Yoga Nidra?
No, I don't think I have, no.
Because it's one of these, it's a practice that, and I mean, we use it on our teacher trainings all the time, and it always amuses me that if you say to a class of students who are learning both as in yoga class or as in yoga teacher training, okay, it's Yoga Nidra, there is never any resistance. There's a scramble for the cushions, the blanket, the eye covers or whatever you've brought with you to lie flat.
Okay.
And I often look at and go, this is really interesting. Everybody is so receptive and looking forward to this practice. And it's basically you lie on the floor and do nothing, but the teacher or the recording is taking you through all these different things, movement, feeling your feet, feeling your right toenail, feeling your little finger, feeling your rib cage, and it goes through this whole thing where you're thinking while you're lying still, which is an hour of it's supposed to be around 4 hours of sleep, the equivalent of.
Is that right? So is that when you scan the body, then you go, right,
Yes, so you have done it.
I have
Yeah.
done that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I've struggled with it.
Have you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, either you struggled with it and your mind wandering onto, I don't like the tonality of that person's voice, or what is that meaning? Or, I can't think of what she's saying, or, and then you bring back to either what they're saying in the Yoga Nidra and listen to it a bit more, or you fall asleep.
Okay, right, okay.
And then you think, was I asleep?
Yeah.
Or was I in a place of a great abyss, blissful?
The only time I've fallen asleep, I did one through lockdown. Again, I think this girl was taught by yourself, Julie, and it was yin yoga over Zoom. And I fell asleep in the pigeon pose. Which
No.
Yes.
That's got to be the least likely pose you could fall asleep in.
I know, but I
If you
managed
don't know
that.
what a pigeon pose is, it's you bending one leg right in front and you're lying on top of your bent leg, which is at a quirky angle, while you're breathing through it. That's amazing. You managed to fall asleep.
So that's, but it shows that I have to be doing something strenuous at the same time to be able to calm down. Anyway.
Maybe you should try doing Shavasana in a headstand or something like that.
Yeah, maybe that was, that works out. I managed Bird of Paradise on one leg for the first time this week, which I'm
Wow.
really thrilled about.
Well done.
Yeah, there is this sense of achievement when you can do something, because a lot of the classes I still sit in and I think, no, I'm not even going to attempt that, because it's balance is always a bit of a challenge for me, and I think it's at a certain age, but you can...
But that's to do with your mind, you see.
Yeah.
If you, and I think it's always an interesting test at the beginning of a class, if you give people a balance to do, and the ones that are kind of centered and grounded and focusing can balance, but the ones that are still back in the car park parking on what they've got to do afterwards, all
No
over
chance.
the place, because you're in your head, you're not in your body.
Okay.
You're not in your foundation. So, it makes you off balance by nature.
Right, okay, so that's... Right, I need to work on that as well then.
Balancing, standing on one leg for a while.
And so your speciality is seasonal yoga. Can you explain to us what that means?
So each time of year, you change your habits according to what the weather and what the climate's doing.
Sure.
So it's, I think the way I normally explain it is the difference between the summer and winter. So in the winter seasons, it's colder. You feel more like hibernating. You want hot foods. You want to give your body a kind of cuddle and nurture, sleep longer, get up later, go to bed earlier. Summer, it's the opposite. Okay. It's energy, the sun shining, hopefully, potentially, fingers crossed in Glasgow. Sun is shining, the foods are lighter, you're eating these water-based foods. You don't need as much sleep because you've got more energy.
Absolutely.
You're feeling a lot more like going out socially, where in the winter you sat at home with your foot in the one slipper, watching a movie. In the summer, somebody says, you want to come out? You go, yeah, I'm going to come out.
Different, yes.
So there's two different contrasts of energy.
Right.
It's basically about looking at the energy of outside, noticing the energy inside, and living according to that energy. And there's kind of 5 or 6 changes a year, which is a great thing to do.
Okay. So right now, what should we be doing then?
So this is the spring season. Well, which should be the spring season, but depending geographically where you are, it's not been a great spring.
Okay, yeah.
It's been a cold spring.
Definitely.
And this, it was aligned with, initially with traditional Chinese medicine, which 3,000 years ago stated that there's a different set of organs for each different times of year.
Ah, okay.
So in the spring season, it's about your liver and your gallbladder.
Right.
So at the moment, it's all about thinking about diet-wise, cleaning up your act a bit and having stir-fries, crunchy greens in foods, and still warm because it's too cold to do the salady thing. And then in your mind, it should be clarity, thinking where you're going for this year, focusing on what you'd like to achieve, focusing on your intentions. And then for practice, more stretchy, because you're stretching out of hibernation.
Right.
Into the more flexible times of year. So this season is a big change from what we call the yin seasons, the quiet, dark seasons, to the yang seasons, the noisy, flexible, hot seasons. So this transition You're starting to stretch your body out of hibernation. And then the flexibility gets the muscles working again, which starts to allow the body to be less toxic.
Okay.
And so you're helping the liver on its journey of detoxifying the body by doing more stretch, by cleaning up your act, by having an intention of where you're going this year, and by going more outdoor walking, breathing in all the lovely fresh air. So, and then you would be doing the opposite of that when we're changing into the cold seasons.
Yeah, that's fascinating, because that instinctively, that is what you feel like. I know, like January, February, I do not want to cross over my front door pretty much. I don't want to go out. I want to hibernate. I want to sit and watch movies and eat. March, you're kind of in the mood that you want to come back out. And then April and May, as soon as the weather is better, you do want to be doing more. Your energy levels change completely. And even the amount of sleep you need, that changes, doesn't it?
Yes, it absolutely does. And it's all around the circadian or circadian rhythm, whichever you call it.
Okay.
Because there's a whole rhythm and a change to nature. And if you look what nature is doing, look at a tree. It's growing at the moment, so you should be growing, But in the autumn, the leaves are falling off because the leaves have got no longer anything. There's no sap rising. There's nothing for them to hang on to, so they shrivel up and drop off. And that's that transitional change as well. But naturally, we all know to live like this. We've all forgotten.
That's it. So it's an amazing reminder, and that's a good way of looking at it, is thinking of ourselves as plants, or so not to beat yourself up in February if you feel like staying indoors or you want to just not go out and see people.
But I remember once when I was teaching one of my classes and saying to people, that, and it was probably mid-January or something, if you don't feel like going out, you shouldn't be going out. You should be staying in. And of course, the following Monday night or whatever it was, nobody was at the class. So I had to change
excuse.
the following Monday, saying, I don't mean yoga.
Don't give that up.
I just meant socially. Furiously backpedaling.
Yeah, and I'm just busy thinking now I can stay home and eat chocolate and watch movies all for the whole month of February.
Which is different practice. But it is an amazing thing. And I think the great thing about teaching the seasonal yoga practice, you have an awareness that each time of year, and it changes about every 8 weeks, you should be doing different things.
Right, really?
Should be, intention should be different. The dieting or food, or not dieting, but the food and nutrition you have is different. Your attitude to life is different. Which organ is heightening to the surface is different. So you've got different needs and wants.
And you should be focusing on different things then every couple of months.
So it doesn't get boring.
Well, yeah, that's true as well. It's a nice way to live.
It is. It really is. And it keeps you aware of the body's different needs at different times and how you stay more in balance.
And have you had any kind of feedback from people? Have you seen any changes in people that you've shown this way of living or this way of life, this lifestyle?
The great thing about teacher trainings is that you start at one time of year. It takes a year. So you introduce them to a season, and then you get them to live the season while we're teaching them to teach yoga. And then by the time they finish the course, they've lived each season, and they've changed their habits and lifestyle and attitude each season. And the evolution that people get through this practice is enormous.
Yeah,
it's life-changing.
I bet.
And we get to witness that every time we do it. And it's a fantastic thing. And I mean, it's thanks to 3,000 years of ago, how are these people, and they were designed to keep, people well. It wasn't treating illness. It was maintaining a wellness.
Yeah.
And it's really what it's all about. It's maintaining your health and wellness, and noticing when you don't feel right, and why is that, and what can I do to rebalance this feeling before it becomes disease or illness.
We've got a lot to thank traditional Chinese medicine for, haven't we?
Absolutely.
I mean, there's so many things we've forgotten along the way. But you look at things nowadays like acupuncture, acupressure, reflexology. Even if you think about, like, in the skincare side of things, the gua sha and the rolling
every morning I do that.
You do. Well, you can tell because your skin's amazing. So we've got a lot to thank them for. So how do you stay motivated, Julie? On days that you, maybe if it is a cold February morning, for example, how do you stay motivated to
Well,
get
I,
out?
mean, I suppose I have my rituals and my habits,
Okay.
and I'm very, very particular about walking my talk. I make sure if I'm telling others to do something, that I'm doing it too. Otherwise, there's no integrity in what I do.
Of course.
So my whole philosophy is sharing what I do and who I am, not sharing what I think I should be telling people.
Great.
So, but different times of year I do different things, and always start with breath. Always wake up in the morning, start with breath.
Okay.
Just taking 3 or 4 really deep breaths to get my body to its optimal awakeness before I even move.
Right.
And then go about all the habitual things, the routines that I do on a daily basis. And then I've got a little dog, so I take him for a walk, and I'm forever grateful. Occasionally, not grateful for the barking, but grateful for the need to have to go out three
Yeah.
times a year in nature, and that mindfulness of being out and looking at the trees and looking at the world around me, and then coming back and getting on with my working day is an absolute blessing.
That sets you up for the day, I
hmm
take it then.
hmm
Yeah.
It does. And I've got different things I do different times of year, different things I eat for breakfast, different practices, different
You'll cheat.
moves.
Right.
I
Okay.
change according to,
Okay.
because I can't, you can't go, I'm going to do this every day of my life now.
No, I know it gets boring, I guess,
Oh, it
doesn't
does get
it?
boring. So you've got
Mm.
to bring a bit of variety into it. Variety of how you think, how you're doing something, what time you're getting up, what time you're going to sleep, who you're interacting with, or how often are you interacting with
Hmm.
them, and how are you thinking internally, and can I change that? Is there something not right here? And just constantly inner inquiry with the parameters of this living in season.
Nice. So if there was 3 reasons, if somebody's listening today and they're really curious about how they can get into yoga and seasonal yoga or this kind of lifestyle in particular, what would you say the 3 reasons they should do it, make some changes?
I think the first thing is it gives you more awareness of yourself.
Okay.
And with more awareness of self comes the ability to have an early warning system of the things not being right, whether it's, and I'm not talking about physically as well as mentally, emotionally, in the world around you, you become more sensitized, which I think is a good thing for all of us.
Yeah. Yep.
And then over and above that, and well, no, they're all equal actually, it's not above it at all, but feeling fitter.
Yeah.
Do you know,
Yep.
feeling your body is being used? I mean, exercise and movement is an essential pillar of healthy longevity, which is really what we all should be looking at now.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
point in being healthy without longevity. There's no point in having longevity without health.
Yeah.
The two have to come together. So going in and noticing any changes, so going inward, moving, really hugely beneficial. And I think the really important thing is it gives us better sleep.
Yeah.
Because if you get better sleep, you can function better.
Mm-hmm.
Your body has rested properly.
Yep.
You can think straighter. And so doing a couple of things which lead you to be able to rest and recover.
Okay. Yep.
And so that sleep comes into rest, recovery, your ability to, what we were talking about earlier, do a meditation, do yoga nidra, in whichever form that is,
Mm-hmm.
comes from doing this kind of practice.
Yeah. Yep.
And
it
I'm not talking about
balances.
seasonal, I'm talking about everything,
Okay.
exercising in general.
Yeah. I mean, I feel it makes it, sleep in particular, just makes you a nicer person, doesn't it, when you've had enough sleep?
Oh, doesn't it just? I mean, it's really important, and that noticing that if you're not sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
and then going through the question, internal dialogue of, well, why am I not sleeping? Did I have too much coffee yesterday, or did I have a coffee at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or why has this happened? Having the ability to have the internal dialogue comes from doing mindful movement.
True. Yeah, because you're more aware of how your body works and
hmm
how different things impact your body.
But mindful movement can equally be going on a lovely walk every day and noticing the world around you
Mm. Yep.
and how you feel after you've had that walk.
Definitely. Definitely. Thank you so much, Julie. I feel like I could talk to you forever. If somebody wants to learn more from you about seasonal yoga, where's the best place to find out more?
Well, I go to juliehanson.com
Okay.
because you probably remember that more than anything. And I mean, we teach now out of the lovely Prince and Princess of Wales Hospice
Great.
in Glasgow in Ballyhouston Park. But seasonal yoga as such, we have a site there, seasonalyoga.net, offers teacher trainings all over the country.
Okay.
And also classes all over the country. We've got fantastic teachers. If you just Google seasonal yoga, you'll find teachers. I do workshops once every season in the
Okay.
hospice in the big conference, beautiful conference suite upstairs.
Oh, that's good to
A
know.
great cafe there you can go and use afterwards. It's a lovely environment.
Yeah, it's a beautiful setting, isn't it?
Yeah, and we do a foundation course, which I'm starting in September in the hospice, which is the basic grassroots of what this is, with me and my lovely co-teacher, Claire Davidson. And I just love opening people's mind to this stuff.
Yeah.
It's the best thing you can do for a living, and see people get better, feel more well, feel more balanced, feel rested. So that's it, juliehanson.com or seasonal yoga, or come along to the foundation course we're doing in September in the hospice and sign up, and I'll introduce you to how you can make your life better.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did it?
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Did I?
Another day. Yep, sorry, yep. She doesn't like to stretch herself
Don't
too
tell
much.
Rizzo that. Yeah, exactly. Already barked. Okay. So I take my dog out 3 times a day, which is absolutely fantastic for the mind. I take Rizzo, my dog, out 3 times a day, which is great fun. Every day I take Rizzo for a walk at least 3 times, once in the morning, once at lunchtime, and once in the evening, which really balances him and me. Is that all right? Okay. Sorry about that. Is that the only thing I made an arse of?
It was not an arse. It just said one word. And I picked up and I was like, "But did I hear that right?" And then, yeah, at least that was
It's
fine.
funny
You
the
guys
things
know.
you say.
Oh,
I
I
didn't
know,
even
I know.
register it. It's because
I
I'm
thought that was
rabbiting
great.
on.
Thank you. I know. Are you going to take up yoga then, you two?
What? Did you?